The Vicksburg Campaign, we did it kind of broken up into segments of the experiments, the campaign, and the siege. The Union victory, Western Mississippi, and it was in December 1862 to July 1863. Okay, so the topography. The lay of the land was vital to the battle. It greatly affected the campaign. It was a source of much strife for Grant as he attempted to take Vicksburg. The land around Vicksburg, the south was better for moving as opposed to the north. The east was a good place to attack from, and the position of Vicksburg, it was right along the river, and the north couldn't go past it without hitting Vicksburg, and there were rivers and bayous, and it was hard to move by the land, and the canals couldn't fill up. You'll learn about that later. And then maneuver between the rivers, the boats helped, and then the Yazoo River north, it was too far away to go. And the Mississippi River, and then they crossed that.
Okay, so there's quite a few very important people. One of the most vital was Ulysses S. Grant, and he led the Union forces at Vicksburg. This was before he was the commander of all the Union armies. And so part of winning this battle was one of the reasons he was promoted to commander of all the Union armies. And that happened in early 1864. And this is one of the key battles he won. And then two other people on the Confederate side who are very important are Joseph Johnston, and he was a Confederate, and he raised an army in Jackson, and he was trying to help Pemberton and Vicksburg. But he really didn't do much or put up a huge fight because he didn't believe he had enough troops to really make a difference. And then another very important Confederate is John C. Pemberton. He held Vicksburg and attempted to hold back the Union forces, and he succeeded for a long time.
Okay, another one was David P. Porter. He was a Union admiral. He controlled gunboats. He helped Grant transport troops and supplies. He was key to winning the battle. He moved the boats on good waterways. Good waterways was often difficult and a source of trouble. So it was hard to move the boats. And then there was Sherman, William Sherman. With Grant at the first attempt to take Vicksburg due to miscommunication, Sherman lost the battle, and there are many casualties. Also part of the march to the sea. So there was a miscommunication, and he didn't know to pull out, and so a lot of them died in that battle. And then Union Colonel Benjamin Garrison, cavalry led diversion Union side. When Grant was leading, Porter's boats past Vicksburg, he destroyed Confederate supplies and disrupted communications. That was vital to winning the battle as well.
Okay, and now the battle. It was quite a long one. So this is in the fall of 1862. The Union controlled most of the Mississippi River. So General Sherman, Admiral Porter, and Grant were on the Union side, and then Pemberton was in Vicksburg on the Confederate side. So December was the first attack. It seemed at first that the Union would easily take Vicksburg. So Sherman led an army towards Vicksburg, and then Grant led a diversion into Mississippi. However, Confederate cavalry attacked Grant, and he had to turn back because it was that bad. And Sherman didn't get the message, and then there was a battle, and he was defeated with many losses. And then Grant began what he called a series of experiments, which was different ways to attack Vicksburg. What is going on? So all of them involved attacking from the east, because that was an easy way to attack from. So his first two experiments involved landing south of Vicksburg, but you can't just sail past, because Vicksburg is right on the river, and it's not smart to send all your boats and men past a river where they can shoot you from. So what they did, they marched and sailed south, and they tried to build a canal to transport across the river, and then therefore avoid going past Vicksburg. But That's what happened. So, they tried a second series of canals, and they were going to connect Lake Providence, the Red River, and the Mississippi all together so they could go past and around Vicksburg. But, once again, they were planning to come around from the east, but they were unprepared, and it was really long. It was going to be nearly 400 miles of route to create and prepare, and they just couldn't do it in the end. So he tried a couple more things, and the next two involved attacking from, going to the north and then attacking from the east. But the terrain was really difficult to maneuver up in the north. So, first he attempted going down the Yazoo River with the boats and his men, but it was just too difficult to go through. And then he also tried sending them down other bayous, but he still couldn't do it. So, nothing was working, and then he got an idea. And this is the beginning of the campaign. So, he decided to try going west. And he would just have to risk Porter's gunboats being spotted, and he was going to sail them past Vicksburg. So, Grant's troops started walking that way along the blue line we see. And then the boats snuck past on the Mississippi River, and while they were doing that, Grant created a distraction. He sent some Union troops to draw out Pemberton's troops in the north, and then he sent Garrison's cavalry into Mississippi just to disrupt communications and destroy supply. So, on April 28th, Grant's troops landed at Hard Times, Mississippi. They crossed the Mississippi at Bruinsburg on April 30th. And meanwhile, the Confederate Army starts assembling under Johnston in Jackson to help relieve Vicksburg. So now, the campaign, we have lots of series of battles. So Grant is stuck between two armies now, Jackson and Vicksburg, and so he just decides to go towards Jackson and get rid of them. So May 1st, he defeats the Confederate defense at Battle Port of Gibson, and then Grant wins the Battle of Raymond on May 12th. And then on May 14th, he captures Jackson. So now only Vicksburg stands in the way. And Vicksburg is cut off from supplies because the railroad on Jackson was a crossroads with the railroad, and now Vicksburg cannot get shipped anything. So now Pemberton's setting up lines of defense, and on May 16th, Grant defeats Pemberton at Champion Hill, and then Pemberton retreats back to the Big Black River. So Grant defeats Pemberton again May 17th in what becomes the Battle of Big Black River. And so the Confederates retreat to Vicksburg. And so on May 19th and 22nd, Grant attempted to directly assault Vicksburg, but both attempts failed. Grant then decides to lay siege to Vicksburg. So they surrounded Vicksburg and laid siege to it, and the city was cut off, and basically people were starving after a time. On July 3rd, Confederates were defeated at Gettysburg, and then on July 4th, ironically, Pemberton surrenders. So, to review.
Strategy and tactics. So on Grant's side, there are boats and water for transportation or transport. Stage 1, diversion, separating enemies, and then a series of experiments. In the first two, they land in the south and attack from the east. The first was a canal to bypass Vicksburg, but it didn't fill up with enough water, then connect bodies of water to get around, but that didn't really work out. It was just too big of a task. In the next two, the land in the north, and then attack from the east, and then go through bayous, and then land in the north and go. And the progressive stage, go south and attack from the east. And then they took a risk with the position, and then they take out the moving threat and cut off Vicksburg.
So they were trying all their options.
And in Vicksburg, Pemberton, communication, cutting off communications, batteries, cavalry, multiple lines of defense, and then they knew when to give in or give up the different things.
And the batteries were like groups of cannons set along the Mississippi River, which is why it was so risky to send boats past Vicksburg.
So they're basically trying to take over Vicksburg to cut the Confederate Army in half. Okay, the fog of war. Lots of stuff went wrong, obviously, on Grant's side. Things that impacted the movement, breakdowns of communication in the initial attack, and the preparation for canal building. We didn't really think that through. Lack of engineering. The canal failed. Nature is mean. Warren State often forced Grant to turn back in the Yazoo River north of Vicksburg. The walls are too tall. Vicksburg was good defensively. Grant couldn't directly attack it in the wind. And Pemberton got diverted, fell for Grant's distractions by the Mississippi, let the boats pass. Jackson was lost, got isolated, lines of defense failed, he got surrounded, and Gettysburg was lost.
So the significance of all of this, it was a turning point in the war. The North ended up controlling Mississippi, and it split the Confederacy in two. Lincoln later called it one of the most brilliant in the world. I'm talking about the battle. Because of its great success, it helped Grant be promoted to commander of all the Union armies, and each side suffered approximately 10,000 casualties. And this was a couple-month battle. So, that's the end.
That was good.